This is Jonathan Soccer's morning show. It's a Friday, which means we get you ready for the weekend. We get you ready for everything going on across the board. Give you your juice boxes, get you ready for the MLS Cup playoffs. There's a game 3. There are a couple of game 3s that we've got to talk about in hour number 2. We'll do that and get you ready for Columbus and Atlanta, get you ready for the other 2, and get you ready for your weekend viewing across the board. And hi. John here, you there. Thanks for hanging out with us for SDH on a Friday. Here's your traffic. And hour number 1 is what it traditionally is. We'll get you ready. We're going to talk about the NWSL TV deal, starting things off with opening kickoff. And then we'll hopefully be visited by our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring coming in at 9:30, 10 o'clock. Very cool. Next Goal Wins. You know about that movie. You've seen the advertising blitz that has come across. Premiered at TIFF this season, the Toronto International Film Festival. Released theatrically a week from today from our friends at Searchlight Pictures. And it has to do with the Thomas Rongen story involving the American Samoa national team. And Coach is going to join us at 10 o'clock. And so we're going to talk to Coach for about 15 or 20 minutes, talk about the movie, talk about what it was like to take something from a documentary form, turn it into a movie, what he thinks about the movie, how many times has he seen the movie, has he broken down Michael Fassbender's performance, all of those things. Does Fassbender get an Oscar for everything that he's been doing with the particular movie? So, 10 o'clock, Coach Thomas Rongen joining us, where we get to talk about Next Goal Wins. Very, very cool that our friendship Nami has helped us out with that. So we're going to catch up with Coach at 10 o'clock, and then after Coach, about 10:20 or so, the rest of the time we'll get you ready for the weekend, get you ready for all the matchups, get you ready for Major League Soccer, talk about Columbus and Atlanta, whatever's on your mind, and we'll roll through there. So, very, very busy weekend, busy show as always, but once again, the headliner starting off hour number 2, the coach, Thomas Rongen, talking about Next Goal Wins, out for release from our friends at Searchlight a week from today. And speaking of today, wanted to send out our love at SDH to everyone who is impacted by Veterans Day, lest we forget. Thanks to all of you who have served, are serving, may serve, may have family who will serve in the future, coming up in short terms. So just wanted to send out our love and appreciation to all of you who have ties to keeping us safe as a country. And as a child, as a grandchild of someone who was attached to activity in World War II, it's a day that you will always. Not that this day should be any different, but it's a day that hopefully reminds us all about the other 364, where we should not forget about those who are keeping our country safe and keeping our country free. So, Veterans Day, and for those of you who have the day off, you get an early start to your weekend. But once again, take some time and remember those who are helping out our nation on a daily basis. So that's Veterans Day. Shooter's already off and running this morning in the Twitch pitch. And Shooter, here's all right. So Shooter, here's how we broke down the Mark Anthony K situation. But since we didn't get to see you the day after it happened, here's my thoughts. And the Mark Anthony K read, I know that got a lot of folks fired up, and I'm fairly certain that Shooter and Rich were having conversations offline, back and forth. But Shooter, here's what I would say about Mark Anthony K. And I guess this typically does qualify for opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. We'll go backward to talk opening kickoff here. Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And once again, don't forget to use the code soccer down here 15 to get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvested into youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Shooter, I don't think it was a red. I don't think it was a red. The way that I looked at it, and we always get to look at how things are in slow motion and things get accentuated. And I will maintain my opinion. I do not think it was a red card. Because Gazdag, A, is on the ground. Mark Anthony K is trying to step over him, and Gazdag grabs Mark Anthony K's leg, then is rolling with the momentum of Mark Anthony K as Mark Anthony K is trying to step over Gazdag so he doesn't fall down. So Gazdag grabs a hold of him and is rolling away from where his body currently is. Mark Anthony K is stepping, trying to step over him, and ends up with the contact. And I know that, like I said, Tom and I, the Airborne DJ, I know we've had our discussions, but like I said, Shooter, just to bring you into the discussion, I don't think it was a red. I think it was a yellow, and I don't think that there was any, I don't think there was any intentional force attached to it because he's trying to, keep himself from falling with the momentum and the roll and all this kind of stuff. I don't think it was. I don't think it was a. I don't think it was a red. Drew Fisher has been known to pull the red out of his pocket this season. Why Alex Chilowitz was the fourth, I have no idea, considering everything that he has been associated with Philadelphia this year in matches that he had out of control. But Chilowitz was the fourth. You saw Mark Anthony K give Alex Chilowitz an earful on the way out the door. I don't think it was a yellow card. I don't think it was a red card. I think it was a yellow card. So, like I said, that's my dime store opinion about it from what I saw. And yes, once again, seeing something slowed down emphasizes my point to me because, like I said, I'm slowing down and I'm seeing, okay, this did happen. You see him rolling. Gazdag's grabbing. K is trying to step, and he steps on it. Okay, yellow card. He's trying to avoid falling down on top of him. Steps on him with cleats. That's a yellow. It's not a red. Like I said, that's just me. Morning, Ricky. Morning, Ropes. But so yeah, Shooter is all fired up this morning since he didn't get the chance to discuss Mark Anthony K out of the blocks. And Shooter wants him to fold the Revs. He's that fired up about it. And then so now Shooter is bandwagoning, is go Atlanta. I'm on the bandwagon, and hopefully he doesn't curse coming into game 3. Shooter says, if there is a God, Philly will lose in a similar fashion to the way they lost last year. That still brings me joy. Wow. So yeah, losing at the end to Gareth Bale, who's now playing golf. So, but yeah, so that's like I said, that's my take on it, on the red. I didn't think it was a red, but like I said, when we look at things slowed down, it does get to give us the chance to emphasize and accentuate our own opinions when it comes to stuff like that. I think that we really got to look at these things in real time. But to me, looking at it slowed down does emphasize what I initially thought. So, morning Shooter, glad you're here. All right, so that's opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee is getting caught back up in circular on what was going on with Philly and New England to put an end to that series. So once again, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. KickoffCoffeeCO.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch. And that in turn, if you use the code Soccer Down Here 15, gets you 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives that they've come across that mean a lot to them. So Kickoff Coffee and KickoffCoffeeCO.com. There you go. All right. The NWSL yesterday had a big piece of news. Big piece of news. And fantastic for them as women's soccer continues to get the recognition financially, even just financially, that I think that it deserves, especially in this marketplace. And if you are looking for an underserved and underappreciated asset to invest in, I would say it's women's soccer. Yesterday, the NWSL, with their championship game coming up around the corner at Snapdragon Saturday night at 8 o'clock, big CBS, had a big announcement yesterday. Reaching more viewers in 2024, broadcast deal with 4 separate entities: ESPN, CBS, who's had them in the past, Prime, and scripts. So here's the deal. Here's the layout of the deal. This is from our friend Meg Linehan at The Athletic and our friends there at The Athletic. 4-year deals with each partner. 20 games apiece, at least 20 games apiece on the platform. Fans will get to stream regular season matches on Friday night on Prime and watch 2 primetime matches on Saturday on the Ion Network. We'll go through all the details and then we'll analyze it. Package of the regular season matches are going to air on CBS, stream on Paramount Plus with CBS Sports showing additional matches. Morning, Alex. ESPN is going to show matches across 4 separate platforms, ABC, the Mothership, the Deuce, and Deportes, as well as stream them on the Plus in English and Spanish. The agreements will double the number of cameras for matches, which will also help with video replay review. Remainder of the regular season schedule, part of a direct-to-consumer package produced and distributed by the NWSL. Ion is going to get the draft. Date for the draft yet to be announced. Ion is also going to lead off their Saturday doubleheaders with a studio show at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Game starting at 7:30 and 10. SDH knows some folks who would be more than happy to host said programs or call said matches. Prime and CBS will get 1 quarterfinal each. ESPN/ABC get the other 2. ESPN, ABC, and CBS will each have a semifinal game. CBS will get the championship game still, put it in prime time, make it available for Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus's 3-year deal ends with this season. $60 million a year combined from each partner for the next 4 years. Big win, big improvement. And you're also, as Linehan points out, it's a 4. It's not a 10. Or it's not an 8. It's a 4-year deal, so you can continue to grow. It gets you right into 2027. Just saying. Lines it right up with 2027. We still don't know who's hosting the women's hemispheric and planetary competition either. We still don't know 2027 yet. But the NWSL has signed a 4-year deal to line itself up to 27. I would assume that it would be in this hemisphere. But since we do not know what the planetary decision makers have decided yet, we know 34, but we don't know 27, which is 4 years away. 34 can plan. 34 can build their modular stadiums or do whatever they feel like they need to do. 27 is 4 years away. I am making the grand assumption here that you will have a host who's already got a lot of the infrastructure in place, can snap their fingers and pretty much get everything rolling. That is a grand assumption on my part. I anticipate it will be this hemisphere. We will see. But smart by the NWSL to go for 4 to get it to that cycle and through that planetary competition. MLS has 10 with Apple. U.S. Soccer has 8 with Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, the challenges. Obviously, with 3 new partners, a couple new partners, you've got to figure out where everything is. Okay, it's tonight, therefore I have to go here. It's tonight, therefore I have to go here. You're going to have to promote the daylights out of this and sit there and remind everybody constantly and consistently, at least through the first half of the first season of this deal, hey, it's this day, so go here. It's this day, so go here. You're going to have to spend a boatload in advertising and ancillary advertising elements. The news release from the NWSL, their own selves, says that all 4 broadcasters have, quote, made significant commitments to marketing and promoting the NWSL and, importantly, cross-marketing each other's scheduled broadcasts. You also get expanded playoffs. Currently, half the teams make it in the playoffs, top 2 getting byes, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. You bring in Bay and Royals, 8 teams will make the playoffs. So it's 8 out of 14. Bye week is being dropped from the format for quarterfinal split across 3 broadcast partners. Man, there's a lot of math here. 8 of the 14 advance in 24. You anticipate perhaps that with more expansion in 26, when Boston comes in, somebody else comes in, that you keep it at 8 of the 16. Watching Decision Day was crazy this past season. You want to keep that kind of momentum. So now, we also don't know what this direct-to-consumer package is. We know about the games that are going to the broadcast partners, but what is this direct-to-consumer package? Is this a paywall? International folks get to watch on Twitch and places like that, and it's been free. And then you have your quotes and all of that kind of stuff. So, big deal for the NWSL. Big deal, massive, huge. To the point. And Ricky, you had mentioned it, and this is one thing for me. Ricky, MLS not adopting the Friday game still feels like a mistake, but I'm glad the NWSL is. Agreed completely. We have on this network and on this show for as far back as we can recall. I mean, Jason out of the blocks said, make it an MLS Friday night. Obviously, here in the South, you'll have some folks in major markets drifting off to their high school football games, getting ready for college, etc. But Major League Soccer, I think, and like I said, I think all of us here on the show missed out. They think that Major League Soccer missed out by not doing Friday night and owning Friday night. Come on at 7. Do your game at 7, whatever, with your pregame show, 7:30. You're out by 9:20, 9:30 at the latest. Pregame show, bridge programming, 10 o'clock game, go. I think the Major League Soccer folks missed out, and NWSL's jumping on that. Don't let it go. Don't let it go. Bart, NWSL, listen to our request to Major League Soccer to create the Friday night time slot. Bart also thinks don't think it'll need that much promotion once we get used to it. WOSO fans will do the research and know where to watch. Being on cable TV will draw randoms and casuals. Having 3 set time slots each week is really helpful. Agreed. Yeah, Michael Head, Friday night should be MLS night. It's a big marketing miss. But, hey, you got WOSO Friday now. And it will truly be up to each of these networks. And these networks, all 4 of these networks, there can be some kind of good-natured adversarial stuff. But if you're going to elevate the game and you're all investing $4 million a year, because I think the previous deal with CBS, I think was 3.4. I think they flipped the number for each team. So, you're looking at an additional $1 million a year for each team. Multiple broadcast partners, and they've all got to be cool with this whole thing. Rising tide lifts all boats. We talk about this a lot. And so now for each of these broadcast partners, you want to continue to lift women's soccer, here's your chance to do it domestically. Bay's coming in. Utah's coming back. Boston's coming in. We're still waiting for that other expansion team to figure out who it is to get you to 16. Bay's expansion fee was not the loose change between the cushions in the sofa. Neither is Boston's. The level of investment has increased in Major League in the NWSL. Now it's up to the broadcast partners. And the biggest thing that I will continue and we will continue to talk about here, you can't just do games. You've got to do the stories. You've got to bring the personalities into the viewing rooms for, as Bart says, the randoms and the casuals. The hardcores and the diehards might know the story, but to be able to have a sit-down, say, with a Denise O'Sullivan as an idea. following Denise home, back to Europe, following each of these steps. And we all get to we know about Sophia Smith, but the really cool stories, they're there. You don't have to look that hard. One of the tenets that I have always operated by is that everyone's got a story. Steve Hartman came up with that phrase over at CBS. Literally, what Steve Hartman would do: go into a particular town, go into a payphone booth, open up the white pages. Remember when phone booths had white pages? Go into the phone booth, open up the white pages, literally pick out a page at random, put his finger on the page, morning, Abby, and he would go find that person and tell their story. He said, random person you find in the white pages. You wander into a town, you put your finger on a page at random, Steve Hartman would find a story from that individual. Everyone has a story. And as a part of this large step that is being made for the NWSL, what you've got to do is find the story of each of these individuals. Yes, Sophia Smith has a story. Yes, Olivia Moultrie has a story. Yes, Trinity Rodman has a story. Is there a story away from the story that we don't know? The ownership groups, they've all got stories. Michelle Kang's got a story. The folks at Bay have their own individual stories. But it's the story away from the story with the folks that we know. The folks that we don't know, find those stories. You have to tell those stories to bring more folks into the tent. Bring them into the tent. That is going to be key. Highlights, flashy studio space, all of that stuff, increased game coverage, increased number of cameras, all these kinds of things, fantastic. You need to add quality to the content. Quality of the broadcast, quality of the content. Find the stories that are out there and bring them forward. So that way you can bring in more folks into this idea of this next round, this next 4 years of the NWSL. Like I said, great idea to only do this contract for 4 years. Only 4 years. So that way, once again, you can sit there and go, okay, 27, we know what we got. And then this leads itself into that discussion after this deal. You're being proactive here, leading into this 27 planetary competition. What do you do for an encore? You're hoping that you can use this as your launching pad, and then you get your springboard. Launching pad, springboard, or springboard, launching pad, whatever order you want to put it in, whichever one gets you started and gets you moving further. And Bart, keeping us up to date on information involving players and stories. He says, speaking of stories, Christy Mewis, Sam Kerr engaged 12 hours ago, courtesy of our friends at People Magazine. So mazel tov to the crazy kids. Christy Mewis and Sam Kerr are engaged. So, yes, Alex, the one with the super secret location. The planetary competition in 2027 that we kind of think we know, but we don't because no one said anything yet. So we'll see. We don't know. And so we'll see what happens. So it looks like Greg Garza will be joining us. And he'll be a couple minutes late. But good to have Greg to talk about things, talk about the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. Greg's a busy man. And speaking of busy men, did you see Michael Parkhurst, new mascot? They're signing players right and left at Rhode Island. Rhode Island FC, we talked about it with Kaylor Hodges yesterday, with the signings that they're making. And now Rhode Island FC actually has a mascot. Chip the Haberseal. For wicked good soccer and a wicked good mascot, Chip the Haberseal. He got announced yesterday. So, and he's making the tour of all of the television stations there in Providence. So, Chip the Haberseal's the new mascot at Rhode Island FC. Wicked good soccer and a wicked good mascot. So, yeah, it's funny stuff. But got a mascot. I think they've got 4 players now at Rhode Island. So, it really is interesting to see how things are improving there. We mentioned how things are growing with women's soccer, and you look at the major pay increases in general. The UK Women's FA Cup purse is going to double to $7.34 million. Club that wins the final gets $527. This has all been adjusted from pounds to dollars, courtesy of our friends at Front Office Sports. Final match, the club that wins the final gets $527,000 in addition to the other prize money throughout the tournament. Last season, the FA Cup purse jumped from $490,000 to $3.68 million. Then it's going to double again. FA says its goal is to eventually make prize funds for the Women's FA Cup equal to the men's, which will award more than $25 million in total this year. New collective bargaining agreement between Football Australia and the players will increase individual salaries for women's national members by as much as around $60,000 each. Top women's players made about $70,000 a year under the previous deal, but could now be paid up to $128,000 on top of any tournament prize money and salaries they receive from their club teams. Moves follows the summer planetary competition in Australia and New Zealand, which paid out $110 million in prize money, a record for the women's tournament. Yeah. There you go. Bart wants a funding of the women of a women's Open Cup by the U.S. Soccer Federation. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see you think the Villages would have a women? You think the Villages would have a women's Open Cup team? You get Tormenta women, you get all the teams in the USL storming through this tournament, having to play, teams like the equivalents of Christos and the Villages in a women's Open Cup format. I think it'd be pretty sweet. Once again, find an underappreciated asset, invest in it, watch it grow. Something to keep in mind. Just something to keep in mind. What is this nation about? Growth, opportunity from a financial standpoint. From an economic standpoint, it's about economic growth. It's about pursuing your passions. It's about growing things and leaving it for others to continue to grow and advance and grow and advance and grow and advance. You invest in things that are underappreciated. You invest in something that has no appreciation. If you're first in the door of finding something that has value and introducing it to the rest of everyone around you as something that has value, and they go, yes, that has value. Growing the game, finding an underappreciated asset, investing in that underappreciated asset, and continuing to lift all boats. Someone out there, to Bart's point, end of the NWSL, someone out there's got to be kicking the tires on this idea. Obviously, to start up something like this, it has to be financially viable. Startup cost, I'm saying, not long-term. I'm saying startup cost. Startup cost for something has to be financially viable, or someone has to have incredibly deep pockets and have faith in the investment and faith in the idea. Then you take those first couple of steps, sort out your growing pains, grow it, invest more, grow it, invest more, grow it, invest more. And you're seeing that. Now, that would be pretty sweet. You get a Leagues Cup between the NWSL and Liga MX Femenil. See, now Bart's onto something here. Bart is really onto something here. And don't think for a second that Tuda NA wouldn't sit there and go, yep, we're good. Tuda NA has made a point, where we discuss the NWSL hopping on and trying to take over Friday nights, which they should. Tuda NA makes a point on Monday nights to do Liga MX Femenil doubleheaders. Fox Deportes attaches to the teams that they have Liga MX contracts with, and they'll run Liga MX Femenil. There have been double and triple headers of Liga MX Femenil on Tuda NA in the past. On a Monday night. 6, 8, 10. They've locked that down, and from the beginning, I mean, literally, you'll sit there and you could turn on Tuda NA or Fox Deportes and sit there and go, hey, there's Liga MX Femenil. They broadcast it just like everything else. Tuda NA found a time slot for Liga MX Femenil, stuck to it. 6, 8, and 10, or 6 and 8, or 8 and 10. Doubleheader, tripleheader activity for the women's game on a sports network in Mexico because they know the value of the product. You hope that those who follow the NWSL will wander down this same path. And I'm hoping that that Friday night idea is the linchpin to this, where we see with Monday with Liga MX Femenil, Friday can be the same for the NWSL. But the idea of a crossover competition right here, book this. Mark this tape and make sure that you have easy access to this show in this segment. Like I said, Greg Garza hopefully joining us in the next couple of minutes. Thomas Rongen joining us top of the hour. Lock this tape in. Liga MX Femenil Leagues Cup with NWSL. That'd be pretty sweet. I'll say it right now, and I'd watch. And then what you do is, as we've continued to grow this product here organically on the show this morning, what you do is probably to start off, you'd probably have to have all of the games here in the United States because of venues and support. But the Liga MX Femenil home games, when they're the home team, show them on Monday nights. Where the NWSL team is the home team, it's on your Friday. You attach yourself to the days of the week that your viewers are familiar with your product. Friday, Monday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, but you hit the hell out of Monday night for your Liga MX Femenil teams, and you hit the hell out of Friday night for your NWSL teams. Soccer night in North America. Do it twice. Soccer night in North America. We've solved the world's problems when it comes to women's soccer here in the United States. Quick visit this morning with our friend Greg Garza, which means I have to go find a really fancy intro, and here it is. Greg Garza.
Good morning. It's been a minute.
One of the fastest and busiest men on the planet. It's like you're traveling north of borders, you're traveling north and south, and you're doing mentoring, and you're taking care of those that you love that are close to you. You're a very, very busy man these days, sir.
I thought you were going to say the fattest.
No, that's me. That's me, cowboy.
Oh, man. I was like, man, I've been retired for some years now, but I hope I'm not there yet.
No, that's me. I'm a little further along in the driver's license than you, and no, that is me, sir.
How's everything going, man?
You tell me. I mean, it is we can talk. We'll start it off by talking soccer and blend it into mentoring. It's a game 3 in a new playoff format for Atlanta United, having to go to a hostile environment. What have you thought about games 1 and 2 so far?
Is Columbus really hostile?
Eh,
I think
eh.
one of the first soccer stadiums that they used to have, not anymore. They obviously upgraded. I don't know if it's a hostile environment though. Not 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 the ones where I remember, man, those fans sucked. Uh, uh, Now, if you tell me Red Bull or Philly or places like that, then I could agree with you.
Okay.
But no, I think there's a chance. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for this young team to show me consistency,
Hmm.
and I feel like that's been the big question with them is that there are sparks. There are sparks and flames and so many different things within one game to where you say we're back, and then you have two stinkers of games right after, and it's like there's no median. There's no. I'd like them to just play well every game. They don't have to give us like what they've given us this last game. Can they do something that is just within the consistent way of how we want them to play? That's my personal opinion on what this team has shown me this season,
Yeah.
and I wish they could find that consistency within to because that's what you need in these playoff runs. That's and to get far, you're not going to play another home game unless Kansas City makes it all the way through. So it's going to be a tough road to be on, always playing away.
When you're having conversations with your mentees about consistency and about environment, what are those conversations like? Because you mentioned consistency in an environment where it is playoff life. You either continue or you're done for the year and you're heading to the golf course for 6 weeks and you're plotting your Thanksgiving and your Christmas, which you don't want to do because that means you got to go out and shop. But when you have conversations with your mentees about pressure situations, about consistency of play, navigating all of those pressures, I guess for a multi-part question, what are these conversations like?
Well, first of all, I love the word consistency because most people view consistency as doing something at a high level for a really long time, and I disagree because I feel like you're not able to play at a high level every single game. Even the best of the best, they're not able to not able to play at a high level every single game. But there are things within your own personal and individual game that you are able to do on a consistent basis. And I think it's up to each and every player to understand what it is that they do, what they bring to the table, what they can contribute, and what role they can play in a consistent way. And so that's when I view the word consistency. Those are my thoughts. Not necessarily playing lights out every single game because you just can't. But I can take it back to my personal game. I tried to find myself in a game to be as open as I could be because I knew with time and space I could hit in a wicked cross with my left foot. And so that was one thing that was constantly on my mind. Another thing that was on my mind is that every time Yamil Assad or every time Barco or every time Miguel or every time everybody, whoever was on the left-hand side in that cup run or in the 17 run that we had, I was going to get an overlap in. And I think that's one thing that, if people were to tell me today, say, man, I used to love watching you overlap and make runs every single game go to, you were this engine over. And that was something that I knew every game that I played, I could do on a consistent basis. Now I think that's up to every individual on AU to understand. They don't have to be the savior. They don't have to be, uh, you know, they don't have to be this guy that's going to have all the glory for themselves. But if they're able to kind of tune in on those individual battles with themselves, then I think that's what makes a consistent game. That's what makes a consistent player for me. If you are a player that makes great runs every single game, then that's all you should. That's all you should be looking for. You should do nothing else. You should not try and beat a player 1v1 because that's not That's not something you are consistent in. And so, I think it comes down a lot to the individual to understand what role they play rather than team in those moments.
But I would imagine, at least at the beginning of that journey to try to find consistency, you still have individuals that want to, for lack of a better word, they want to overreach. They want to still try and color outside the lines,
Yes.
and it takes a while to understand. A picture, a painting can still look fantastic. You don't have to paint outside the lines to make it look like Dali or Picasso. Ever a painting can still look pretty gorgeous if you just stick to what's there on the canvas.
I think that's why players play for so long, the guys who have figured it out. And I think you and I have had this conversation before, is that I didn't necessarily enjoy watching as a pro. I didn't enjoy watching flashy players.
Yeah.
I would rather watch, and this is my personal opinion, I would rather watch Jeff Lorenowitz play 100 games rather than watch Thiago Almada play 100 games.
Huh.
Because Jeff Lorenowitz is going to be absolutely so consistent every single game. Thiago Almada scored this last game.
Yep.
Nobody's going to remember the game that he had, though. Right? It wasn't his best game. I don't think it was his best game at all. But he scored. And that's the flashy player within him. Now, for me, I enjoy watching guys that play with an experience of knowing the game, with the longevity of the experience, knowing that they can outlast every single minute that is played and play decent. They don't have to play the greatest. They don't have to be the flashiest player, but every single game they deliver. Every single game they're there. Their work ethic, their work rate, everything is just all in one. Their whole game encompasses just being a consistent player. And that's that. Whenever I was a player, those are the players that I like to study, because I told myself I want to be that player. I don't want to be the flashy player that's gonna change a game in a second. I want to be the industry player, the industrial player that's going to show up every single day, every single game, and is going to somehow make a valuable impact in a game. And I think more players should watch those types of players, because there are more players in the world these days of those types of players. There are very few Thiago Almadas. There are very few Joseph Martinez. There are very few Miguel Almirones in the league that can change the game within a second. But nobody remembers the rest of their game. Nobody really pays attention. If you really study soccer, if you really look at players in general, those are my types of players that I enjoy watching. But it all comes down to personal opinion, right? It's doesn't necessarily. Everybody's going to buy the other jersey. Everybody's going to buy the Almada jersey. Nobody's, people are going to buy the Larry jerseys, but it's
On a bet?
yeah.
I mean, well, and this comes to your point. Greg Garza hanging out with us for about another 10 minutes. Thomas Rongen, top of the hour. I've seen, and I think that, and it might be because Atlanta United fans got the chance to see you from the beginning of a franchise, Jeff from the beginning of a franchise, Parky from the beginning of a franchise, where they can get that appreciation of a guy like you that just marauds down the left-hand side and takes no prisoners and tries to be as consistent as possible. You get a guy like Jeff who will stand up to somebody from the Red Bulls and sit there and not worry about it. And he'll tower over somebody. And if you're coming after a teammate, Jeff will be the first one to hop in the pile. And I've literally seen more guys and more fans of Atlanta United since the franchise began want the Garza jersey, want the Lorenowitz jersey, and want the Parkhurst jersey because of that consistency and showing up every day and not backing down from a challenge and being there for your teammates.
I mean, I think if you look at that roster, right? I mean, I think at the end of the day, soccer is all about comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
You look at that roster, you had, and I don't even throw myself in the mix, but you have the Gressel, the Nagby, the Parkhurst, the Lorenowitz, And maybe that was 4 out of 5 out of the 11 that those guys, we were all going to deliver somehow, some way. Were we going to be the guys that made something happen in the game? Maybe not. But you knew you needed those guys to have a successful team. That's why I enjoy Atlanta United fans. Don't hate me for this.
Uh-oh.
I enjoy watching Philly play. I enjoy watching Philly play because they have that balance. They have the perfect balance of they have players that know their role and they're
Uh-huh.
going to go in and they're going to do it every single game. And then they have a couple of players that can just boom, change the game and within a millisecond. And from what I've seen this season is we have a lot of players that like one game you see them, you're like, holy crap, this guy is like unbelievable. And then it takes another 2 games to get to that super high level. And I want the median guys. I want the guys that are always gonna deliver.
You want the guys that are going to give you 7s and 8s every single time out on a scale of 1 to 10 instead of a 10, a 5, a 3, a 10.
There you go. Because as a fan, and this is speaking for all fans. How many games have you gone this year, even including myself as a fan, and said we're back? And then you watch the next game and you're like, maybe we're not. And then you go to the next game and you're like, oh my gosh, what the hell is happening? And then you go to the next game and you're like, man, this is the best I've seen us play in the last 5 years, right? And it's like you're constantly on this emotional roller coaster, and so it's as a fan, I think there's a high chance. It's just up to these guys within when's the game? The game's Sunday.
Sunday night.
It's up to them on what. It's almost this is like I feel like whenever I speak to my son who's 10 and we speak to coaches sometimes like it's whoever wakes up on that given day it's whoever wakes up on that given day is going to win that U11 game. And it's like some days you watch your U11 team play or U11 son play and you're like, wow, this kid's got it. And then the next day he just doesn't bring it. And it's kind of like that. I feel like that's kind of been what we've seen this year from a fan perspective, from a mentor perspective, and from a coach perspective. You got to find that consistency, and I think that's when you need those experienced players to come in and kind of gather the troops and have someone. And I feel we're missing an Ozzy Alonso to be in there every single game. We're missing somebody with a ton of experience to kind of just gather the troops and help them understand that consistency part. But once again, it's all about comparisons. It's all about opinions. Everything is subjective. Uh,
When you're a mentee, and when you were giving advice to your mentees about consistency, are there generational disconnects where, say, even maybe a 5 or a 10-year age gap where you understand the value of consistency? You have learned the hard way, being a competitive athlete worldwide. You've learned the value of consistency and trying to stay at 7s and 8s. For players who are slightly younger than you and then your mentees, do they have those same connections and same levels of understanding, or do you find that a certain demo is chasing after glory and it's like, man, I want to just chase after being an A plus and then accept the F and then I level out at being a C? I mean, do you have age groups that are different when it comes to understanding consistency?
I would say it's a massive generational change to where everybody wants to be that saving hero, um, that savior of the game rather than the gladiator.
Yeah.
And I feel like I try and help kids understand being more of the gladiator rather than the game changer.
Right.
Because I think whenever I became a left back, I'd never defended in my whole entire life. And I played number 10 and I played left wing, and whatever team you put me on, I would perform and I would be the game changer and I would be be the go-to guy as a kid until I became a pro. And I just remember that coach sitting down with me and saying, Greg, there are very few game changers that are successful. Very few game changers. Look at Messi's interview with Zidane he just did the other day for Adidas. How many number 10s do we have left in the world? Maybe a handful. There's got to be less than 5 number 10s that you can name and be like, these guys are absolute creators and guys that can change the game within a second. And although I think Miguel played the perfect 10 role here in Atlanta United, he does not play the 10 role in Newcastle.
Right.
So he's become that hard worker, gladiator. He's become the guy that still can change a game within a second, but his role has changed. And so, that's why I think providing that information and showing these kids the benefit of being that guy is so much more valuable for them in the future. Because I think when you have that versatility of mindset and kind of that flexible and open mind as well, it allows you, let's talk real, like these kids being in a corporate building one day, or they're being in whatever they do in the future, that's going to be so valuable to them to be that absolute hard worker. And not because I feel like a lot of the game changers and a lot of the guys who they're extremely emotional. They're people that are always they're either up or all hell is broken.
Yeah. You've crashed or you're succeeding at 100. It's the hundreds and zeros.
And so many kids have that. So many kids that I see, they have that mentality. It's one game they played absolutely amazing and they absolutely rocked it. And then the next game, it's, oh my gosh, that was the worst game I ever played. I'm terrible. And it's the word we started with today. The word consistency is on so many levels within everything. It is within performance. It is within mindset. It is within, creating good habits and, doing these things. And we had this really cool conversation. I don't know if I've talked to you since, but that's really good conversation with the head scout of U.S. Soccer. We did talk about this or no?
No, we have not. No.
Yeah. And I guess before I go, we talked about this is just a snippet of everything. And I won't give it away because I use this with my mentees a lot.
There you go.
But we call them the 4 selves. And all I was doing while he was talking, I was just writing down what he was saying. And although he didn't create it into an exercise, I did. And he talked about elite personalities and elite players. They have self-belief, self-discipline, self-assessment, and self-regulation. And I was like, man, he's so right. Elite players and elite personalities, no matter what we do in life, if we're playing soccer every day, if we're doing this every day, you always have to believe in yourself. You have to be disciplined. Do you make your bed every single day? Because that's going to transfer into whatever else you do. And so I've been asking a lot of my mentees lately, hey, do you make your bed every day? You'd be surprised, 8 out of 10 kids, what they say.
Consistency.
Yeah. And so, it's once again, you just go back to creating good habits, the word consistency, or the self-assessment, not blaming others, but just looking at yourself in the mirror and being like, hey, that guy didn't do this today. What can I do better? And then the self-regulation. Once we go back to the controlling behaviors and controlling your emotions. So that was really interesting listening. I mean, we probably talked to him for about an hour and a half, Parky and I had to go pick up my kids from school. Parky had to go to another meeting, and we could have probably talked to him like for 3 hours. But it was interesting to see because this guy has discovered so many players and he's seen so many players. And that's like when I look back and I think about, wow, all the elite players, the experienced players, the Jeff Larinowitz, the Michael Parkhurst, the guys that outlasted so many people, they always had those 4 things, no matter what. Didn't matter the caliber or level of player they were within that team. They had those 4 things. And that's why they were great pros. That's why they were great people. But yeah, wanted to finish on that.
No doubt. Well, thanks as always. And thanks for crashing in as always on the Friday Free Kick, Greg. Great to catch up with you, my friend. We'll catch up with you in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good. What's your prediction, man, for Sunday?
They'll take it. I think it's 2-1. I think it's messy. It probably it's going to be a chippy game. I think it's going to go 2-1 Atlanta.
This is like, I just don't understand why we sat back that first game. I don't understand why we were on that defensive. Now I think is the game to play like that.
Yeah.
because you never know what. Now it's to be conservative. I feel like in these first 2 games, man, especially in the first one, we should have played like 2 in the back. We should have gone old school, played 2 in the back, and just play 7, 7 or 8 forwards. And like, because at the end of the day,
I see how this works.
it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
And so, it's it'll be interesting because now it's a true chess match. You're not in the cathedral the first game, in the second game. So it'll be interesting to see.
No doubt. All right, Greg, be good, be safe. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Sounds good, man. Good to speak to you.
All right, Greg Garza, and we do the hot tag. It's a hot tag, as they call it in wrestling. We go diving for the turnbuckle, and we bring in the coach, Thomas Rongen. Coach, thanks for hanging out with us on hour number 2 here in the morning show.
You're welcome, John. Is Greg still there? Greg played for me.
Greg, oh, he did. I did not know this.
We're going way back. Under 20 men's national team, Greg Garza was my starting left fullback for a 2-year cycle. With the under 20 World Cups, obviously our 2-year cycle. So great human, great player.
Nice. The symmetry that we have for the show sometimes, it just kind of lets its way out. Coach, it's been a while that we've been trying to work this out. And, when your employer taps you on the shoulder and says, dude, we need you to do some live, then obviously that's going to happen. But glad we could get you because you got yourself a movie, man. Well done.
I mean, it's one of those badass moments, where you get an answer to a question, who should play me in a movie? Well, it's an Oscar and Golden Globe nominee, Magneto, Inglourious Basterds, Steve Jobs. It's Michael Fassbender. So how's your day going? It's pretty good. And by the way, I'm calling Inter Miami in Messi's game, so life is good, John.
Yep, you got the matchup d'or later today. So no,
yeah,
you're good. You're good.
I'm calling the game on radio, so that's why I'm ready already. It's game day, baby. Let's go.
Game day. So, all right, I know that a lot of folks, may go back to the documentary back in 2014 and sit there and go, okay, now I know the genesis of all of this stuff, but what is it like to finally see something that focused on a project that was a fantastic story, by the way, to finally condense that into like an hour and a half after 5 years and then develop and all this kind of stuff? What's the road been like for you to finally see it go from a doc to movie form?
Yeah, pretty amazing. As you said, it's based on the original documentary made in 2014, based on World Cup qualifying in 2011, and then fast forward to now. It's become a heartbreaking comedy drama, about the world's worst soccer team.
Yeah.
And I think that Taika Waititi, if you now go to the end product, shares his audacious take on the world's biggest sport. It's like, it's said to be Ted Lasso, running into cool runnings via the Mighty Ducks, and I had to twist the truth a little bit, he said, otherwise I'll tell people to watch the documentary. And he's going back, he said that to me when he first called me and told me that Michael Fassbender was going to play me. He says, I want to go back to my Polynesian roots. His last movie was a big movie, Thor, for Disney and Searchlight. And the beautiful thing about it is the film really rests on the shoulders of the cast, and most of them have Samoan ancestry, which Taika has as well. He's from an indigenous tribe in New Zealand. And that's just, that's beautiful, actually. He tries to, really explore sports and the nature of achievement. And also you learn more about, and that's what he really wanted, the community and the culture of the Samoans. So, I think it's uplifting. I think people enjoy it. I urge people to go because it's the ultimate underdog story, really. The worst team in the world, trying to qualify for a World Cup.
So then let me ask it this way. From your time that you spent there in American Samoa to now, how much of them is in you now, and how much of you did you leave behind with football in American Samoa?
Oh, God. John, it was an incredible journey, both professionally and maybe even more so personally, quite frankly. And if I look at, I played against Pele here in the NESL. I've been to Atlanta to play the Chiefs in the late 70s, early 80s. I was part of the 94 World Cup. I wasn't, coach in the 1996 first year of MLS and coached 4 MLS teams. I've won a ring with DC United. I've done quite well with the Olympic team and the senior team when I was assistant coach. But this dwarfs anything. If people ask me what was your most rewarding experience, it's not my ring with DC United, but it is clearly American Samoa, where I deal with taboo issues in the world, not necessarily for Dutchies and Polynesians, which is playing a transgender. Dealing with religion. I'm an atheist, but I, end up in an island that's highly religious. It deals with death. I lost my daughter, and finally I was able to mourn and cry as well. So it was just this interesting, intertwined story for Thomas Rongen, both on the field and off the field, and the people there are wonderful. Although it's a beautiful island, it also has high unemployment rate, high obesity, high alcohol and drug use. The only way to get, they call it off the rock, is to either enlist in the military or be a great student or athlete to get a scholarship in the United States. So Thomas Rongen became a better person, a more spiritual person, to say the least.
Next Goal Wins coming out next week. Searchlight Pictures first flashed at the Toronto International Film Festival this past year. And Michael Fassbender playing the role of Thomas Rongen in the movie. And Coach is hanging out with us here this morning here on SDH. You mentioned coaching, and there are different personalities when it comes to coaching. This situation in American Samoa, you would have had to have been a builder. Did you always see yourself as a builder, or were you thrown into this construction project and going, man, I've got to figure out how to use the hammer and the nail and the workbench and all this kind of stuff? What kind of a personality were you going in?
Well, I mean, funny story. I got a call from Sunil Gulati in 2010, late 2010. He was the president of U.S. Soccer. I was currently the coach of the under-20 team. So let me just explain to you how this happened. And he says, we have a territory called American Samoa. They need some help. Are you able to do that? Because you have a little bit of downtime before we start qualifying for the next cycle for the under-20s. And I said, sure. And I said to somebody in the room, where's American Samoa? And the person who responded, it's next to Fiji. So I went, yeah, I'm in. Put the phone down, Googled, and here we go. Lost 31-0 against Australia, worst ever defeat. Had not won a game in 20 years. Outscored 229 to 0. Had not scored a goal. So I knew I was up against it, no doubt about it. Technically, I made him a little bit better. I tweaked some things tactically, but where I made great stride was from a fitness standpoint and from more so a mental standpoint. So we did a lot of on and off the field team building. And on the day of our game against Tonga, first qualifying game, and I do my spiel of, starting 11, rah, rah, rah. And I said to my wife, actually, I think they believe they can win. So that was really a change of a mindset, turning losers basically into winners. And a lot of things along the line helped me with that. I brought back the goalkeeper that gave up 31 goals, John, who had retired.
Yeah.
He told me the first time on the phone, my son thinks I'm a loser. People recognize me in the streets. I said, come back. I said, no, I don't want to. Eventually he comes back. He's in goal. He comes up to me after the game, which we beat Tonga 2-1, and he cries. He says, my son thinks I'm a hero. The Fafafina, third gender story of Salua is obviously brilliant. And one other great story is I brought a guy that was the best athlete on the island. I saw him play 3 days into my trip to American Samoa in an American football high school game. And I go, I want that guy. And the person goes, he's never played soccer. So I was convincing this guy to come. He scores the winner at 17 against Tonga. Fast forward 10 years later, and this is lost a little bit in the movie because he was such an introvert, both in the documentary. And he calls me as coach. I'm in Miami. I'm the starting safety for the Oakland Raiders. We're playing the Dolphins today. So insane. So there's so many beautiful stories of individuals intertwined in this movie that Waititi obviously plays a role in, and says, I want to make sure that people remember my Polynesian people that live sometimes on the margins, with twisting the story and turning, unfortunately, Thomas Rongen into a villain in the first hour of the movie, and then I become the hero at the end. Great journey, John. Brilliant.
Next Goal Wins coming out next Friday. But I mean, part of it, I would imagine, as you're telling a story, is the idea of redemption. When it comes to, you start off someone as a villain, and then they are redeemed by the environment that's around them. You mentioned how your experience there in American Samoa rubbed off on you and has carried with you ever since. I mean, in real world, I would think that this is obviously probably one of the best coaching jobs ever done on this planet under any circumstance. Where would you rank you if you were looking outside the window and sit there and look at what you were able to do there in American Samoa?
Well, yeah, probably number one. If you look at the FIFA rankings when they're last, and we jump actually like 32 places, and they dropped a little bit. But if you talk about legacy, I didn't go in there. More young kids are playing the game. As you know, John, rugby and American football on those islands are king. But they've made some inroads. All of a sudden, we never had referees. We now train referees. We have more fields. We have more kids that play right now that show interest and want to be the next Nikki Salupa, the next Jaya. That's obviously great. But yeah, at the end of the day, I can't think of anything else. And as I said again, John, I lost my daughter in a car accident. And talk about attention to detail, although he changed a lot of things, Waititi. This hat Michael Fassbender wore in the movie, which I did against Tonga, as I said again, as a tribute to the loss of my daughter, and the mere fact, as I said again, that I was able finally to let go on this beautiful island due to the way they embraced me and I embraced them. So they probably saved my life, John. I'll be real honest with you.
I was going to ask, have you been back recently? Do you keep in touch with folks from that run back in the early 2010s? What's your level of contact like?
Yeah, that's interesting. I coached 4 MLS teams. I went to 3 under-20 World Cups. I went to the Olympics. So I coached a lot of teams, and I stay in touch with some players of certain teams, but I stay in touch with more players of American Samoa. I think it's also a telling story that they hit me with something. So I do talk to the federation. I do talk to quite a few players. I am actually the first one that knows, although I haven't said yes, they want me back for the next qualifying phase to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. I haven't said yes yet.
Okay.
I got a lot of other things on my plate, CBS, BN, into Miami games.
Busiest man in show business, I know, yeah.
So I'm trying to go back, John, to look at the poster behind me, which was the original documentary.
There it is.
So, and that's the goalkeeper, and then obviously you get Jaya as well. I wouldn't mind going back if it makes sense.
And I can sense the meaning of being asked in your voice.
Thank you.
That's I mean, to have that kind of circle, and sometimes the story is a circle where you tell you have the ending and then you go back and you work your way through. How much of this has been a circle for you? But because it seems like the circle's not necessarily complete. You're getting close when it comes to the story with Americans,
Yeah.
but it seems like it's close to completion, but not quite a full circle.
No, that's one chapter, obviously. If you talk about completion, John, I'm in a situation right now where I came to the NASL in the late 70s.
Yeah.
I was able to play against Pele. I was able to play with my childhood hero. I'm from Amsterdam, Ajax, Johan Cruyff, who, by the way, had won 3 Ballon d'Ors. Pele put soccer on the map. 94 World Cup, which I was part of. Start of MLS, coached 4 teams. David Beckham and the designated player effect. And now Messi. So that circle at 67, going from playing against Pele and with Cruyff, now calling Inter Miami Messi games, that circle has become, obviously pretty much to conclusion at my age. And then Michael Fassbender is playing me. So again, how's your day going? But the American Samoa story might not have ended yet. You're right. I got to see how it fits into my schedule as well. I would definitely. I didn't say no. I said I would love to do it, but let's talk.
All right. So my last question for you. Actually, I have 2. Sorry, I fibbed. Where are you going to be next Friday when the movie's out for release nationally?
I'll be. Which is really nice. I am also a liaison sports innovation and vitality for the Dutch embassy. So I try to introduce Dutch companies to America. We have 15 companies coming in next week for Soccer X, the biggest exhibition of soccer in the world. We have the Royal Dutch Football Federation, Johan Neeskens, as our legend coming in as well. And I just found out that Soccer X is doing a little bit of a screening that day while we're all in Miami, which is pretty cool, actually.
And then my last question for you is, how good are you at Golden Tee?
How good am I with what?
At Golden Tee.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty darn good with Golden Tee. even better with. Even better with Pac-Man.
Oh, that's strong.
And occasionally I'll hit a few bullets as well.
Couple of triple 20s. Nothing wrong with that.
There you go.
Coach, thanks for hanging out with us. I know that you have a busy Noche because Noche d'Or coming up tonight, obviously with Miami and NYC there at DRVP and K. Thanks.
I occasionally listen to you,
but
now I'm going to go forward because what you've done every day and the variety from NWSL to Saudis, Greg Garza, et cetera. Well done, John. Keep going.
Okay, well, then what I will do is I will make an executive edict. You now officially, sir, have golden ticket status, so you can crash the party anytime you want and sit there and enter the conversation and discuss about anything you want to come in on. Seriously, you want to crash, you don't have to tell Chip Namias that you're coming into the show. It's like literally anytime that you're not doing something on CBS, anytime you're not doing something on BN, anytime you're not talking about Noche d'Or and Messi and NYC at DRVP and K, you have golden ticket status, sir. You may crash at any time to discuss the sport that we do. Welcome to Soccer's Morning Show. Golden ticket status holder.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Let me know who your guests are, because I've touched so many players, due to the fact that I went to 320 World Cups.
There you go.
Including Greg Garza. It would be fun to jump in with a former player that I haven't spoken to for 20 years. So, yes, I will be.
All right, so next time Garza comes on, traditionally he and Michael Parkhurst have a segment 9:30 on Friday mornings, and they alternate out.
Oh, cool.
So they talk about their mentoring, Beyond Goals mentoring, and they talk about mentoring and what it means.
Right.
Talk about generations and things like that. So,
Make a note. Next time Greg comes on, I got a funny story that I can tell about Garza.
Oh, wow. Okay. So golden ticket status holder Thomas Rongen. Next goal wins coming out next week. Next Friday, Searchlight Pictures. Thanks for crashing the party, my friend, on a Friday. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks for having me.
That is Thomas Rongen, the coach. He's getting ready for the Noche d'Or, the Night of Gold at DRVP and K, because some guy named Messi won another trophy for like the 90th time, as he should have. That's just how it goes. And yet, Jordan, it does look like Thomas is living the good life in South Florida. Yes. One day, all of the anytime crashers are going to crash at the same time. And Abby, I would love it. It would be absolutely hilarious if we got John Schuster to crash, if Minnesota United made it into the playoff. Any of the other golden ticket status holders, John Arnold, Seriously, and I'd love to have a party. I mean, literally as many of the golden ticket holders that could come in. I mean, we have OGs, obviously. Jess is an OG. So Jess can come in at any time and she can talk about whatever she wants to talk about. So, I mean, it's the golden ticket status holders, while they're not OGs. OGs are golden ticket status holders. But so Thomas Rongen has now been elevated after one visit to the golden ticket status. And so he can come in at any time and he can hang out and we can discuss stuff. So Jordan was reading Coach Rongen's bio, worked at Pope John Paul II in Boca. And and Jordan, he does do radio for Messi and Friends. He does. He does do radio for Inter Miami, and he did the local broadcasts for Inter Miami on television with Dre Cordero and Ray Hudson and that group, and he does stuff with BN. Literally, the guy's everywhere. Most of the time, you can see him on CBS Sports. You can see him on Golazo. Guys all over the place. So literally, every place you turn, you will see Thomas Rongen. And it was fun to have Coach on this morning and talk about the movie. Once again, Next Goal Wins, Searchlight Pictures, out next week, next Friday, the 17th. And it was good to kind of pull back the curtain and ask about American Samoa and how it impacted him going forward. So very, very cool stuff there with Thomas Rongen. Okay. It's been a fun morning so far. Thanks to Greg Garza for crashing in. And so now I know that the next time Greg is on, I have to call Thomas so Thomas can crash and be a part of the mentoring segment. And maybe we can get Coach Rongen to talk about mentoring and Greg Garza. And so, Greg, if you're listening, you've now been warned. The next time, Kefsey, Coach was at home. Coach was at home in South Florida, as you could tell. He had the dartboard and everything. Yep, and Alex, he was doing the car wash this morning. And but yeah, he's doing the car wash, promoting the movie. He has been doing it for we tried to have him on last week, but then CBS Sports tapped him on the shoulder, and that kind of takes priority. So they tapped him on the shoulder, and so the slot we had booked, we had to postpone, and so we pushed it to this week and could have him on a Friday morning. And Friday morning here on the morning show seems like a nice spot to have him kind of slide in and just kind of promote everything and just kind of get him to talk about what's going on in the life of Thomas Rongen. Maybe we'll get him to talk some NASL. And I'll wear my Pele shirt one morning when Coach is on. So, but no, it was great. It was great to have Coach on to talk about Next Goal Wins, the adaptation of the documentary Taika Waititi. When Taika Waititi says he wants to do a movie, then I think you're not going to sit there and say no. And so, according to our friends at the Wikipedia's, a $14 million budget. Announced in 2019, Searchlight had initially picked up the project that would have him, that would have Waititi write and direct prior to the obligations for Love and Thunder. Later revealed that it was going to be the film adaptation of the documentary. Waititi, Garrett Bash, Jonathan Cavendish, producers Andy Serkis, Will Tennant, Catherine Dean as EPs. In September 2019, I should have asked Thomas if he had the chance to go out to Hawaii during filming. I knew I forgot something. Announced that the cast was coming in November and December. Principal photography began in November of 2019. Premiered at the 2023 TIFF in September 10th, prior to the commercial release next week. Originally set to be released back in April before being postponed to September. Then to the current date, they couldn't attend the premiere because of restrictions imposed by the SAG-AFTRA strike. And so there you go. But yes, week from today on Searchlight Pictures, it is Next Goal Wins. Once again, thanks to our friend Chip Namias out on the West Coast for helping us out and letting the coach crash on the show on a Friday morning. So next 40 minutes, it's going to be whatever you guys want to talk about in addition to getting ready for things. So he was on Golazo, Alex, before morning footy. Well, we mentioned that he is a media machine. So he is a machine. Golazo Network, morning footy, and now with SDH. So there you go. Yeah, Alex, good storyteller. And like I said, it'll be good to continue to have Coach kind of crash and see what's going on here on the morning show. But since it is past the hour mark, it is time to adjust the audio volumes and perhaps read a promo. So let's take the levels down to where you can hear me and not the music. and we'll read a promo. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Eliminize Service. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. Eliminize deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Eliminize has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including like those like pets, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize Service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Thank you, Ricky, for telling me what that is. Makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. We like that. We like doing the things the green way. Different than Febreze or other masking agents that you have either under the sink or above you in the cupboard, because when you reach either under the sink or above you in the cupboard and you grab the masking agent, you spray the masking agent in the air. There's a reason it's called a masking agent. It just masks the odor. It doesn't attack the problem like it does, like our friends at Eliminize Service do with their proven scientific formula. Destroying odor down to the molecule. Pricing very, very easy, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. Any questions that you have, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's the website. This is where I grab my pen. Hopefully it will work. It does. Go to the website, eliminize.com. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch, on the YouTube channel, and on the 280-character app. Eliminize.com is the website, but do us a favor after the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from so they can help you with your issues. Full homework assignment. ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta. Eliminize.com /Atlanta. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH on a Friday where we're talking stuff. Official term. Thanks to our friends at Eliminize Service for being sponsors as they always do. Traffic for the rest of the day. Later today, Prem and Proper is out, and we will have our contributors, Matty Cruz and Drew Dickinson. Drew will come on with his 3D, the Drew Dickinson diatribe. Matty will cruise through the Prem. Did you get that? Madison cruise through the Prem. So we'll have those two segments in addition to getting you ready for the weekend that will be and looking back at the week that was. And also try and figure out how we can have you enjoy the NWSL final, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. The NWSL programming is probably going to come out noon tomorrow. So we'll be working on that tomorrow morning to get you ready for the NWSL title game out at Snapdragon, OL Reign, Gotham, Bookham Dano, Aloha. And it's on big CBS, too, with a lot of ancillary programming on the Paramount Plus pantheon of networks. And we will continue to cover the NWSL, and we'll roll through once the season's over. Hopefully we can catch up with some of the voices and some of the teams there as well to let everybody rock and roll through the season, because once the season's over, it's not over. And let's see. Bart, getting back to the NWSL discussion. Bart throws out these ideas, like the one that is a really cool one, the NWSL versus Liga MX Femenil Leagues Cup idea. Because NWSL teams need to increase the number of games they play. Even adding new teams only gives you 26. Cup competition against non-NWSL would be more interesting than what the Challenge Cup has become. More money for the league and for the players. So there you go. I know a lot of you were getting into Greg's discussion about how Greg likes Philly. And trust me, if we have Greg in a situation where Greg is discussing Philadelphia and the style of play, like I said, if I had gone down that rabbit hole with Greg, and you know this, if I'd gone down that rabbit hole with Greg, we would have just gone off the rails, and Coach Rongen would not have been on the show, or he would have jumped in, and I'm like, okay, that would have been interesting to have him talk about philosophy and things, but we need to have Coach come in and talk about the movie. So, yes. So Greg enjoyed. Greg enjoys Philadelphia, and so we'll get into that discussion about Greg and Philadelphia. But the consistency thing was interesting from Greg this morning to discuss all of that. Let's get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and things left unsaid, and get into who is doing what, where, and when, and who could be going someplace and who won't. Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United, Newcastle could all offer contract proposals to Kylian Mbappe, who will enter the final 6 months of his PSG contract after reports Real Madrid will not move for the 24-year-old. Oh, my Lord. You know that Todd Bowley will sit there and it's like, I'll pay you $1 gazillion. You know that Newcastle will as well. Spurs will target a left-sided center back in January after learning the extent of Mickey Van de Ven's injury, with Lloyd Kelly from Bournemouth of interest. That's going to have to be a high premium for Bournemouth because Bournemouth is trying to stay in the Prem. Van de Ven could be out until January at the earliest with the hamstring injury that forced him off in the defeat by Chelsea on Monday. Also news on James Maddison. Looks like James Maddison is out till the beginning of the year as well. Arsenal scouts watched Real Sociedad's midfielder Martin Zubimendi during the Champions League game against Benfica on Wednesday. Arsenal also interested in Villa's Douglas Luiz. And I know that Ricky mentioned the end of AZ Alkmaar and Villa yesterday as crazy. United set to make contact with Porto over a January move for experienced striker Mehdi Taremi, who could be available for €10 million. That's a good bargain, £8.7 million, €10 million. United's Rafael Varane has been linked with a move to the Saudi Pro, but Erik Ten Hag wants to keep him around. Liverpool and Chelsea must wait until the summer window if they're going to sign Florian Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen. Juve have met with the reps of Calvin Phillips, who's open to a move to Serie A. That's from Gazzetta dello Sport. Spurs target Serhou Girassi is open to a Premier League move, and the 27-year-old Ghanaian striker, who is being monitored by several clubs, available for his £15 million in January because of the release clause in his Stuttgart contract. No more info on Miles yet, Ropes. It'll be one of the stories of the offseason whenever the offseason is that moment in time. Arsenal beat competition from Spurs, Bayern Munich, Chelsea, and Man U to sign David Raya on loan from Brentford, according to the player's agent. Arsenal could be looking in to bring a midfielder in January, with Thomas Partey set to be out for at least the rest of the 2023 season. That's from the four-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Villa and Southampton are monitoring Derby County's 18-year-old midfielder Darren Robinson. Sir Jim Ratcliffe hopes to complete his 25% purchase of Manchester United within a fortnight, aiming to start his new role on Monday. That's the three-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. We'll have more from Kave Solikol on Prem and Proper later today. Manchester United currently have no plans to replace Erik Ten Hag despite the club's poor start to the season. Amazon are weighing up a bid for Premier League broadcast rights, and this is in Europe, which could threaten the dominance of Sky and TNT, with the tender process for 4 years from the 25-26 season scheduled to be completed by the end of 23. So that's your notes there. Yes, the Mbappe world turns. I feel like, if this was Days of Our Lives, Drake Hogestyn would sit there and go, he'd rub his forehead and go, Doc, something like that. But yeah, Mbappe wanted to go to Real, then he ain't going, and now he's going someplace but not there. So Premier League, 10 things to look out for this weekend, according to our friends at The Guardian. And you have Molineux with Wong facing Son in the Premier League for only the second time. Most pivotal battle will be on Craig Dawson 6 weeks ago, whose career kicked off in Rochdale. He kept Holland in check with Manchester City. Will that happen again? Should Arsenal be looking at another striker? Palace facing Everton. In the battle of counterattackers, Eberechi Eze has signed an extension, so he will be at Crystal Palace for the foreseeable future. Remember, when you have a contract signed, it is about controlling the asset. It is not necessarily about having the player there for the duration of the deal. You sign Etche to a deal of X number of years. If his stock continues to increase, this way you can control the asset. You can control the outbound if that does in fact happen to be an issue. You're controlling the asset in this matter. Pressure, obviously, on Erik Ten Hag. Manchester United, Luton Town. It's one of the 10 o'clock games on Saturday. You've got Eddie Howe returning to Bournemouth on Saturday, 5:30. So that's the 5:30 p.m. minus 5. So is that 10:30? That's an odd one. So we'll see what happens there. So that's just part of the storylines with what's going on. We welcome in Jarrett Smith. Good morning, Jarrett.
Good morning.
Half hour left here in the show, and since we've yet to discuss it, let's get into Game 3 with Atlanta United and Columbus. And what sticks out after these first two games with the yin and yang of the loss in Columbus, the 4-2 win here, wearing the 404 kits, and apparently Columbus seems to be concerned about what Atlanta's wearing for game number 3. They wouldn't let them wear the 404s.
I mean, that's their decision. It's their home. They're also going to end up with the same color scheme. If you are a superstitious person,
yes,
they're going with the same color scheme that led them to a 6-1 victory in the early season.
Okay. So we have that is in.
So I think Atlanta's going to be in the mint.
Okay.
Or the forest. Sorry, the forest.
The forest kit. Yes.
Yeah.
Fun facts for this one is 16-9-9 hosts 13-9-12. After winning only 2 of their first 7 in Columbus, the Crew have won both home matches against Atlanta United in 23. The 2-0 win, obviously, game 1 was the other. Columbus has scored multiple goals in each of the last 7 home matches against Atlanta, unbeaten in 16 straight home in all comps. Has lost just 1 of its last 28 at lower.com, dating back to early August of 22, winning 19. Crew have won 7 of their last 8 home playoff matches, drawing 1 dating back to 2017, including the last 6 in a row. Numbers and fun facts, not fun for Atlanta. Won only 4 of its last 35 away matches in all comps dating back to April of 22, drawing 13. They've lost 3 road playoff games, failing to score in any of those. Cucho has scored in 4 straight, including playoffs dating back to the end of the regular season. Last Crew player to score in more than 4 straight was Stern John. Scored in 6 from September and October of 98. And Gigi had a goal and 2 assists in game 2. First 5 stripes player with 3 goal contributions in a postseason match, scored or assisted on 5 of Atlanta's last 6, dating back to the end of the regular season. So that brings us forward. And this one for me, when you're staring at this one from here as they're playing in Columbus on Sunday night, what sticks in your mind with this one?
It lined up the way that I kind of hoped it would.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say hoped it would. Ideally, you'd love to have snatched game 1, but that was always going to be tough without Almada. And you didn't put on a good show, but you knew that the numbers were going to be against you in that one. That's, it's not a scheduled loss, but it certainly kind of felt like it. But you knew that, hey, if game 1 doesn't go our way, which there's a good chance it doesn't go our way, that you had to win game 2 in your house. And you did.
Yeah.
Like you knew that game 1 would be tough. It didn't go your way. If you win game 2 in your house, and you did, despite a lot of hand-wringing and, we haven't beaten Columbus and, since Jesus wore sandals. I mean, there's no time like the present.
Yep.
You did the job. And you turned this into a one-off. Now, it's a one-off in their house.
Yep.
You're at full strength, as much as can be after having played 5 days before, but they're in the same boat. They had to take the same flight path back to Columbus. And now it's a one-off. And as far as I'm concerned, personally, I think the pressure's on them.
Yeah, I think
the pressure's on Columbus. They're the ones that kind of were that very trendy pick to win MLS Cup. It's a trip to Orlando on the line if you're Atlanta. And I think the pressure's going to be on Columbus, and I want to see how they deal with it. You want somebody to watch on the Columbus side? What do they do on the right-hand side?
Yeah.
Because Julian Gressel hasn't been it for the first 2 games. He hasn't been as dangerous as they need him to be. They brought him in from Vancouver to really supplement that team. And look, that move looked really good at the time, and I think it will prove to be good.
Yeah.
Because we know what he can do delivering the ball. We know what he can do finishing in the box at times, especially when he can really wrap his foot around a ball and hit a rocket. But the first 2 games of the series, it hasn't clicked. He hasn't been as dangerous as they needed him to be.
Yeah.
And we know Cucho Hernandez is always going to be dangerous. He's shown you that. All he needs is not even, an inch of space. He needs about half an inch of space. And he's going to make something happen. Rossi, you kind of feel like he might be due for something. But I want to see what they do on the right side with Gressel, because do you change things up a bit there? Do you ask him to come on later in the game? Because he is still a defensive liability.
Yep.
You know that he can go out there and any given day, he's going to be locked in, hitting early balls, hitting cutbacks, and can pop 2 assists, and you won't even flinch. But if the field gets stretched out and he has to do defensive work, that is a liability for a Xande Silva who found himself in game 2. And I think what Atlanta found, the miss notwithstanding in front of goal, the performance from Xande Silva that Atlanta got, you're not going to be the same because they're not the same kind of player, man. But like, you're looking for that if you're Columbus from Gressel. That, hey, man, the last one didn't go well for you. I need a bounce back performance. Because if you can give me a bounce back performance, it opens up so many things for other people.
Yes. And I mean, obviously, I would anticipate, because you're going into an international window and you're not going to be playing till the 25th or 26th. We won't know this. That lineup that we saw at Mercedes-Benz, I would imagine, is going to be the lineup. We don't know. We don't have an update on Mateus Hosechu. We know that he left with a knock.
I'm still of the opinion personally that no matter what, like I'm emotionally prepared for Jay Fortune to start that spot.
Yeah.
I'm also emotionally prepared for Jay Fortune to be the guy next year. I don't know if that happens for sure. But I think you start Jay in this game. He's shown you he's up for the moment. He's shown you he can handle the moment in the playoffs in that building. And I say that not because I don't like Hosechu. He was solid last game. I still think it's funny people like talking about him during the goal you gave up when it was Miles who got turned.
Yeah.
But I don't want to start a guy and then have to sub him after 30 minutes.
Right.
Or 20 minutes.
True.
I would love to be able to start Jay, and then if Mateus can give me 30 minutes, do that. And honestly, I kind of want someone like him in the shootout if it gets to a shootout.
Yeah.
Who is a really technical player, who is a very calm player. That was because I was talking about this after the game the other night, that like, and he's another one of those guys, but because we know Brad is after the game. Brad is very even, and I mean that in a good way. Like, he doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low after the game. It's still business for him. Because after the game, everybody's in a really good mood. That's a 4-2 win, could have been 5 or 6-2. But he was all business, and he didn't get too high or too low, and I think that's important. And I think Hosechu is that kind of mentality that you would like to have in a shootout, where he's not gonna let the moment rattle him. I'd love to have him late in the game if you need him. I'm not necessarily going to start him unless I know for a fact that he can give me 65, 70 minutes, and it just depends on how he's feeling. I'd be really tempted to start Jay.
Yeah. Well, and then, I mean, you look at the setup and the traditional windows where on the right-hand side, just as an example, you start Saba, you have Saba run like hell for 60 minutes, you bring in Mosqueda to shut the door. Left-hand side, you would start Xande Silva. You let Xande Silva run like hell until he runs out of gas. Then you bring in Tyler Wolf on the left-hand side. So it would make sense that if you're also trying to protect against the possibility of PKs, that could also apply to Jay, where if Jay is in, runs like hell for 70 or 80, then you're prepping and you think you're heading to PKs. You bring in Hosechu to close the door, and then you have Mateus available for PKs in that situation. So the 60, 30, 70, 20 splits that we see on the wings, and we've seen in the midfield occasionally, I think would make sense in the midfield for this go-round too.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. Look, it's going to be a very, very difficult game, and they don't get easier necessarily. You get through Columbus, and you can argue about who was the best in MLS in terms of going into the playoffs, who you feel more confident about. I've been vocal that my belief that Orlando is a problem. And look, they dispatched Nashville pretty well.
Yep.
But even that series was weird. When you start peeling back the layers of that series, if Sam Surridge can finish and not A, try and get too cute, B, try and get too cute, C, try and get too cute in moments in game one in Orlando, there were chances for them to snatch a lead in Orlando, and Nashville didn't take advantage of it, which was really the theme of the second half of the season for them. They just couldn't finish.
Yeah.
But Nashville also just couldn't seem to get it across the line, and Orlando seemed comfortable. What this looks like going forward, I don't know, man. They handled Nashville. They handled Nashville just fine, and styles make fights in these situations, and it's why I think Atlanta and Columbus are so much fun. Because they both want the ball, they both want to create opportunities with the ball, but when they don't have the ball, they're both still capable on the counter, and we saw that with Atlanta. I know it was asked about the other day. Like, yeah, Atlanta created opportunities on the break because Columbus wants the ball too. And when you get moments where Columbus loses the ball, you have opportunities to go. It's may not always be the case for the next rounds of the playoffs. We'll see. But yeah, this feels to me like a lot of pressures on Columbus to get this across the line for them. Yes. They don't lose in that building. If you can get an early goal, if you're Atlanta, great. You really change the tenor of everything. But even if you can keep it scoreless, the longer you can keep it scoreless, while occasionally peppering the goal, occasionally holding possession, I'd like to see him do it to see if you can make Columbus blink first with a mistake. And I think the longer you keep it drawn, nobody wants to go to a shootout, especially when they're at home, because you want to win it at home. I think the longer you can keep this as a stalemate or stay on top of the game if you're Atlanta, the better shape you were in long term. Yeah, in that game. We'll see.
You continue to add the pressure to the home side. Yeah, you're running out of time. Urgency. Oh my God, we've got to do something. I don't want this to go to PKs. That kind of a thing. So no, it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, the Thanksgiving appetizers and side dishes are in the favor of Columbus. Obviously, largest favorite on the board in the 3 games this weekend at a -161. 90-minute draw and Atlanta United both in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal at a +355. No shock.
Yeah.
We have our officiating crew, by the way.
Okay.
Man in the middle is Armando Villarreal.
Okay. I mean, here's my thing, man. You want to take care of this in a sense where you don't have to worry about who it is. You don't want to end up in weird things like you had the Philadelphia game. You just got to go out and take care of business, and then hopefully you get a game like Penso gave you in the Benz the other night, which was a really good game for Penso. I thought he controlled the game really nicely. I think his biggest mistake in the game was accidentally getting in the way of a ball, where it's just he's trying to. I'd take Bart's view on this. It's one of those where it's Saba's trying to play a diagonal to trigger, or you're trying to play, I think, the ball to Saba to trigger a break. And Penso's trying to haul ass to get into position. He just happens to be in the way of it. It was an accident. It was like he was trying to knock the ball. But he called a great game, which was it was fun to make fun of in the moment.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, Pros had a really bad week. But that was, I mean, otherwise, I thought he did really well in that game. And you'd love to have a game like that from Villarreal, and I think you will. I'm not worried about that. And you can't worry about it. You can't worry about who's doing what, who's officiating, and if it goes to VAR, then you cross that bridge when you get there, man.
And the VAR is Daniel Radford.
All right.
Radford was the VAR for the Dallas game and the 3-2 Philadelphia game this year. So we got that going for us, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, it's ultimately this is, I think, this is how I hoped it would play out. Was tough game 1, you win game 2 at home, you turn it into a winner takes all. Game 3, you are going to throw everything at the wall for, well, obviously, because it could be the last game of the season for you. This could end your season, or it could keep going. Even if it keeps going, you have an international break. You have no reason not to empty the absolute hell out of the tank going into this game, where at the final whistle, everyone is dropping down on their back to catch their breath, that kind of thing, because it's not like you have to play in 5 days.
Yep.
You got 2 weeks off.
Yep.
This is where you roll into their building and you are swinging knives around. And sure, you might get cut. You're also trying to think how many you can take with you.
Yep. Who's coming down with me?
Mm-hmm.
Your AR is Corey Parker, Jose Da Silva. Your 4th is Tori Penso, who I imagine a lot of folks would wish would be in the middle for this one. Daniel Radford's your VAR, who's got a history with Atlanta United this season. And Jonathan Johnson is your AVAR. The other matches this weekend, Seattle and FC Dallas. Fotis Bazakis is the man in the middle. Pierre-Luc Lazier is your 4th. Michael Barwagon, Nick Uranga are your ARs. VAR is Yunus Marakchi. Peter Balanchunas is your AVAR. Houston and Real Salt Lake at 6 o'clock on Saturday night. Chris Penso's in the middle. Jason White, Chris Elliott, your ARs. Rosendo Mendoza is your 4th. Kevin Stott is your VAR. TJ Zablocki is your AVAR. Seattle and Dallas, what do you think tonight, 10 o'clock? Seattle favored at a -149.
I think Seattle gets it across the line. I know I missed Nico yesterday, but yeah, man, like I was talking to Mike about it, Mike Conti, and it's like, as much as I was thinking, it kind of feels like a good situation for LAFC. He reminded me, he's like, man, Seattle's there. Seattle wasn't bad this year. Seattle might not have been up to their own standards, maybe what they expected,
right,
but still finished with a winning, still finished in the top 4 in the West and got home games out of it. The good situation to be in if you're Seattle, man. Yeah.
Then off of that one, the next one in line, 6 o'clock tomorrow, which is an odd time. But Hell in a Shell, as RSL goes to Houston. Houston favored at a -152. Draws a +311, and RSL to win on the road is a +380.
This one actually might be the first 2 have been fun of this one. I want to say it's you're looking at Houston to take this, right?
Yeah.
But RSL on the counter, man. This would be very funny with RSL winning, if only to line up a situation where LAFC gets run through by their former striker. That would be very funny. That would be very fun. But yeah, I think I'm going to say Houston. I'm going to say Benny Ball continues his campaign of being slighted for Coach of the Year down ballot votes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and the Benny Ball flag here on the show will continue to be raised and waved in a rather vociferous manner. The championship is this weekend in Charleston, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Phoenix can now annex the state of California, I think. Beating San Diego, Orange County, and Sacramento to go to Patriots Point to take on the Charleston Battery for the championship. For the championship. And if the USL show guys, if Kaler and the guys don't do the T-shirt, we're going to do the championship T-shirt.
So, man, what a turnaround for Charleston this year with Ben Pierman. Because if you remember,
they were not good.
Charleston was really bad.
Yes, that is true.
They were very bad last year. They were a great example for anyone who argues, like, just turn into a pressing team. Just start pressing. Because Charleston tried that under, I think it was, who was it? Connor Casey was there last year.
Thank you, Colorado. Yes,
they tried it under Connor Casey, and they weren't built to be a pressing team. And he tried to make them do that, and they didn't do it well. Charleston last year was everyone's get right game, including Atlanta United twos. And look, man, from Atlanta United twos and time and USL, if I tell you that somebody is Atlanta United twos get right game when they were in USL, that should get you fired. Should 110% get you fired.
Yes.
But they bring in Ben Pierman. He comes in, stabilizes things, and look, the entire Eastern. I know I'm probably rehashing things that Gaylor and company have talked about, but the entire Eastern playoffs were just wine drunk. Like not even good wine either. Like a wine cooler that your parents had in the fridge when everyone got together to watch the new episode of Sex and the City on a Sunday night.
LA Law on a Friday, you drink the new Bartles and James.
I mean, you can. And I'm just thinking, I'm trying to think of something trashier.
Yeah.
But
about right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the Eastern playoffs were just insane. And Charleston kept their head down. They got through it. They get through their first game with Indy 11. They beat Detroit, who had kind of shocked the championship world by slapping around Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And then took out Danny Cruz, who, man, look, all these openings, because has there been a firing this morning?
In La Liga.
But in MLS, sorry, let me clarify.
Nothing. No.
Has anyone in MLS been fired yet?
No. Paqueta was fired 2 months at being at El Madrigal, 13th in the league. No, Villarreal is your only sacking of the morning, sir.
Okay. Well, I say that in the sense that if with all these openings, man, I'm waiting for Danny Cruz to get a call.
Yes,
because he's done really good work at Lou City, and it's kind of getting to that point where if they'd won it this year, I think it definitely would have been well, he has wept as he has seen as Alexander has seen that there is no more land to conquer.
Yep.
But I think maybe he runs it back another time. But man, that Danny Cruz, y'all. Go ahead and start putting him on your board for managers for MLS in the future.
Yeah.
In the right situation. Don't know if Montreal's the right situation, man. I don't know anyone to take that Montreal job right now. And I get Hernan Lasad, it's the whole thing of when you see a jerk in the morning, maybe it's just a jerk when all you've seen all day are jerks, maybe it's you. Hernan Lasad, gotta look deep inside, man, because multiple places now where it hasn't worked and his personality hasn't worked.
Or is Montreal a wild card because of Joey Saputo?
But I think it's both.
Okay.
I do think that's part of it. Remember, man, Joey Saputo had Wilfred Nancy there, who came in as an assistant after Thierry Henry was just actually, I don't want to do this. And was an absolute delight and made Montreal into a joy. And Joey Saputo kind of chased him away because Joey Saputo is going to Joey Saputo some stuff.
Yes, true. Absolutely true.
Canadian David Tepper.
Yeah.
Because especially allegedly. Because there were the rumors that have been popping up that Tepper's the one that pressured the Panthers to take Bryce Young and not CJ Stroud. And that Frank Reich wanted CJ Stroud, and Tepper's nah, we're going to take Bryce Young. Oopsie.
He's trying to be Jera.
Well, the problem is, as well as that Panthers team, it's it's not just Bryce. That team, that roster's not good.
No. Once you got rid of Christian McCaffrey, and you did not turn those draft picks into
poor Adam Thielen's just in hell.
He is.
Just sitting there like the Wolverine meme in bed, looking at pictures of Kirk Cousins, oh, it could have been. But I digress. But yeah, I think it is a thing of both. I think Hernan Losada he's abrasive in the sense that it's going to be a detriment, at least here. Maybe it's kind of Gabby was in Atlanta, where it's just not going to work here, man. Like Europe or South America for you, that might be where it's going to work.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's a personality issue, but yeah, but also Joey Saputo. Joey Saputo also is very rarely viewed as an innocent party in these sorts of things.
Yes.
But I don't know who you would get to take the job, because like I figure like at that point, like is Joey just going to go hire a yes man?
That's what I'm thinking. It would have to be.
What's the ceiling?
Who really wants the gig, like maybe a Bobby Smirnionis, who's the head coach of Forge FC up in CPL. But Bobby Smirnionis doesn't take any crap from anybody either. See, this is the thing. It's going to have to be a yes man, I think. And Kefsy's right. Joey can be really daft.
He can be. And like, but those are tricky jobs because like, yeah, man, like, would it be tempting to say, hey, man, go get Danny Cruz? And with the idea that maybe Danny will come in and he'll be grateful for the opportunity and wouldn't push. I think he would push.
Yeah.
Because he's going to want to do things his way because look at what he's done in Lou City. I think he has every right to say, look what I have, look what we have done. We made the Eastern Conference final every year of our existence, I think.
Yeah. Hey, look, look what we've done.
Yeah. I mean, look what we have continued after James O'Connor left.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, but O'Connor leaves to take the Orlando job. Like Danny Cruz in his time there has been great. I think he'd have every reason to push on saying, I want a gig where I'm going to have some control over what I build because Montreal had a system that was built to play with the ball, built to play in the style with the ball that, that Wilfred Nancy had, tried to overhaul it to be able to do, to be able to play Hernan Losada style. And then just fired him. Like, you going to bring in somebody to continue that style? You going to go back to possession? Yeah. What are you going to do? What is your plan?
So you've got that.
Anyway, good job by. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Good job, Charleston, turning things around this year. Phoenix will be trying to beat your brains into a brick wall and just firing the ball over the top and YOLOing it.
I'll take Phoenix at the plus 179. I will.
It's just like I just want Phoenix just start hitting long balls. It's just like watching Jalen Milroe throw the ball. Like, what routes does he like? Oh, what about these short intermediate routes? We don't do those. What is it? We do slot fades, go routes, sluggos.
Yeah.
Over routes, 25-yard digs.
Everybody does nines.
Yeah. Everything is downfield.
Yes. Charleston, by the way, is a plus 133. Your 90-minute draw is a plus 235. I'll take Phoenix in the plus 179. What do you think of the new USL deal to go over to everything Paramount, the Paramount Pantheon of networks?
Well, I mean, Paramount just keeps getting what look like wins. Yeah. I think their coverage has been really good on Champions League, and it's continued to be good. That's the thing is like they got it right once, which was great, but then they keep getting it right, That's important.
Yeah.
To keep doing it. So that makes me happy.
Yes. Couple of news and notes before we go. Carolyn was named NWSL MVP for North Carolina Courage. What to watch today. FS2 has already blown through the U17 Men's World Cup games at 4A and 7A. The league that we don't talk about or promote is going on right now in the second half. Deportes has La Liga at 3. Fox Deportes has the league we don't talk about or promote at 10 and 1 for a doubleheader. Goal TV with our buddies at Mushuk Runa in the Ecuadorian Primeras at 7 o'clock. Goal TV. If you don't have Goal TV, if you don't have Teise, Goal TV, BN, CDO for the fans, Nuestra Tele, all those, watch Libertadores and Sudamericana. You can go to fanatisfntz.co/soccer down here and get it. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. Telemundo had your simulcast for the U17 Men's World Cup. It's going to be early mornings, as did Universo. Season Pass has Seattle and FC Dallas, and also the Noche d'Or at DRVP and K involving Inter Miami and NYCFC. ESPN Plus has a boatload of things. The NCAA Women's Tournament kicking off at 4 o'clock with Georgia and Liberty. They've got La Liga at 3, Bundesliga at 2:20, Championship at 4 o'clock. Women's tournaments going all day long. They've got the Ivy League at 3 and 6:30, and the semifinals, regular season, Gonzaga and San Diego, the West Coast Conference at 10. Fox Soccer Plus has your simulcast of all your Fox Soccer stuff. Golazo Network has Serie A 2:45, Genoa and Hellas Verona, with one of the busiest women in show business, our friend Poppy Miller. Paramount Plus, Argentine Primera, Gimnasia La Plata, and River Plate at 7:30 this morning. So that's done. Serie A 12:30 and 2:45. That's got to be a PM. 12:30, 2:45 is Serie A doubleheader. Scottish Championship, Dunfermline and Dundee United at 2:45. And Jarrett, Robbie Nielsen, the new head coach of the Tampa Bay Rowdies.
Yeah, we got 2 Scottish legends now in the championship.
Ha ha!
It's been, and that one was a really weird one because I wondered if Nicky Law was going to keep the job through, and then they go to Nielsen.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Nicky is now an assistant on that same staff. So
yeah, but I wondered if he was going to keep the gig full time, especially after we had talked to Jack. With Jack being just seemed pleased as punch that Nicky got that opportunity.
Yep. So we'll see that. And this weekend, once again, tomorrow, if you are not traveling to Ohio and you would like to see some D3 men's soccer, Emory has your doubleheader, 1 and 3:30, I believe, tomorrow. It is Oglethorpe and Colorado College. It is Emory and Brevard. The winners play on Sunday afternoon for the right to go to the Sweet 16, and it could be Emory and Oglethorpe on Sunday afternoon at Emory to determine who goes to the Sweet 16. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun over across the street from the Woodpecker, and you get to watch things at Emory. So D3 early round playoffs involving Emory, Oglethorpe, Colorado College, and Brevard. So there you go.
There you go. And yeah, shout out to UGA's women's team, by the way.
Yes.
Because I believe that's the first time UGA's women's team had won the SEC tournament.
And hey, when you score with 45 seconds to go, or right at the death, you can take it. What do you?
I believe they still play that down in Orange Beach.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think
because I covered that one year, man, and if you've never been to Orange Beach in November or end of October, ain't nothing down there, man.
No.
Ain't nothing, ain't no one.
No, that is accurate. So
places, there's a couple dive bars and a Waffle House and the Floribama.
Yes,
the Floribama not being a dive bar necessarily because it's a cultural institution.
Yes, it is a cultural happening. The game this weekend for Atlanta United is on Star. It is on Star 94. It is not on 92.9 The Game because of the Hawks. So it is pregame show at 7 and game a little after 7:30. So if my math is correct, that means sorry. So 7 o'clock game. So okay. So 6:30. 6:30 pregame, 7:09 kick. So 6:30 pregame, 7:09 kick. Star 94 on Sunday night with Mike and Jason and Columbus and Atlanta. It is on Season Pass. It is on the Season Pass side of things. So sync up your Odyssey app, sync up your over-the-air with what you're watching with Columbus and Atlanta. Anything else, Jarrett, before we go?
No, I don't think so.
That sounds like the end of a show then. So
it does.
He's Jarrett. I'm John. Thanks for hanging out with us for another week of SDH. Thanks to Greg Garza for crashing, as always, to do the Friday free kick. And thanks to Thomas Rongen for coming on to talk about Next Goal Wins. That's coming out a week from today. And our friends at Searchlight Pictures are having that out for massive release for the continuing of the 2014 documentary, now into a movie where Michael Fassbender gets to be Thomas Rongen. As Coach said this morning, how's your day going? Michael Fassbender gets to play you in a movie. So that'll be the fun part with that. So it's a fun week. Prim and Proper later today with Maddie Cruz cruising through the Prim and Drew Dickinson with the 3D. That'll be out later today. NWSL Championship preview, 8 o'clock Saturday night for their kick. And that'll be on the network later tomorrow morning. So, Jarrett, since you are here, sir, to wrap up yet another week, if you would, please send us home.
Mucha plata, y'all.
What he said, because it's the end of the show. Play it safe, everybody. It's the end of the show. That means we get to do this. We'll be back at it again before you know it.